You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast on the EU Aviation Strategy.
Aviation is a key driver of economic growth and jobs in Europe and has a major impact on the life and mobility of its citizens.
To make the EU aviation sector more competitive, the EU is pushing forward a new set of rules to make it fly even higher.
The economic weight of the aviation sector in Europe is enormous. 2 million jobs depend on it and indirectly around 5 million. The sector contributes 110 billion euros to Europe's GDP, and if we consider the revenues of tourism and other associated sectors, this figure goes up to 510 billion.
That's quite something, but how did the aviation market develop to this point? Let's take a look at that.
Until the liberalisation of the EU air transport sector in the early 1990s, air transport within the EU was a highly regulated industry and there was limited scope for competition. But as restrictions on routes, prices or the number of flights were gradually removed, the sector experienced an unprecedented boom in services.
Increasing competition led to a greater choice of destinations, airports and fares, connecting more and more European cities and introducing a new concept in the sky, the low-cost carrier.
Indeed, low-cost airlines have largely profited from this liberalisation. The Irish firm Ryanair has announced a 15% net profit margin for this fiscal year. That's 66% more than the year before, and profits are also rising for European aerospace giants such as Airbus.
But the industry may well be falling victim to its own success. As passengers are expected to double over the next 20 years, European skies and airports are at a serious risk of saturation. The fragmentation and inefficient management of EU airspace is causing delays and higher prices, increasing fuel costs and CO2 emissions.
Growing air traffic, coupled with the threat of terrorism, is also increasing safety and security concerns. And let's not forget that European airlines are still facing restrictions when it comes to accessing third country markets and foreign investments.
So what's Europe doing to avoid all these backlashes and face the new challenges? The answer to this is the new EU Aviation Strategy. But what does it consist of? Let's take a closer look.
To make the aviation sector more competitive, sustainable and innovative, the European Commission adopted in early December 2015 a new aviation strategy.
The strategy contains an indicative action plan until 2018. The Commission is asking the Council for authorisation to negotiate comprehensive aviation agreements with the EU's major trading partners, such as China, Southeast Asian nations and the Gulf countries. And it's called for bilateral agreements with China and Japan to increase flight safety.
The Commission is also urging the Council and the European Parliament to unblock pending aviation files, such as the Single European Sky Package, revised rules and slots, and on air passenger rights.
The Commission also proposed new rules to increase civil aviation safety, as well as new responsibilities and resources for the European Aviation Safety Agency, in line with the demands of the European Parliament. These include a legal framework for the safe use of drones.
In response to MEPs' concerns that new employment practices in the aviation sector may have an impact on flight safety, the Commission is also evaluating the situation and encourages social dialogue on this issue. So what are the next steps? Let's look ahead.
Well, MEPs and member states have now to agree their position on the aviation strategy and the regulation on civil aviation safety, as well as the new mandate of the European Aviation Safety Agency.
If member states give the green light, the Commission will reopen talks to secure aviation agreements with Gulf countries and others in 2016. The Commission is also expected to come up with further measures to ensure fair competition.
This could go as far as introducing sanctions to punish unfair competition, such as the restriction or even suspension of air traffic rights. In 2016, the Commission is also expected to publish guidelines on air passenger rights, ownership and control of EU airlines and public service obligations.
That means a lot coming up in the aviation sector in the coming months, so stay informed.
You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.